We have three keynote speakers this afternoon. Nā reira, e whai ake nei ko te kai kōrero tuatahi. She returned to the South Island in 2015 after 25 years here in Wellington. Helen's career pathway has included teaching, advancing the arts and hauora circular at the Ministry of Education, manager of a sexual health service, policy manager at Te Puni Kōkiri, 15 years service in Parliament, and returning to lead the South Island commissioning agency, Te Pūtahitanga. So please, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the first of our keynote deliveries for this afternoon, CEO Helen Leahy.
E tika ki te mei ki te mana oina o tēnei roi, tēnā rā koutou katoa. He tika hoki ki te mei ki te minata, tēnā koe, me nā kaiarahi o Te Puni Kōkiri, me nā kaimai katoa. E rere tonu ana te aroha ki nā tini mate kua wehe atu ki te pō. I tangi tonu ake te nākau o nā waihotanga o tēnei iwi, o tēnā iwi. Moi mai rā. 1 minute from our home in Linwood, there is a garage. We go there frequently to get petrol, milk, bread, and the occasional boysenberry trumpet. 10 days ago, that garage on the corner took on a new significance. For directly opposite the Z is a place of worship where the Muslim community come to pray, to congregate, to express their culture and religion. That's where they were, bowed over reverent, deep in prayer, when a terrorist changed our lives forever. My daughter drives there every day at 3 o'clock when she finishes work. That day, she was unable to get home because of a police cordon, ambulances and helicopters swooping overhead. Our 10-year-old son was on lockdown at Kura, another daughter on lockdown at university, separated across the city in a war zone constructed by a terrorist act of white supremacy. On that same day, families across the Muslim world, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia and Malaysia, lost sons and brothers, fathers, wives and children, 50 lives stolen, leaving families, communities, countries and our city in an unspeakable anguish. And yet, it had started off a day like any other. In fact, better than most, the faces of the future, our student population, had taken over the square for a march to mobilise attention to climate change. Armed with optimistic placards, like the sea we rise, or Plat Flex, our young people were making the City Council listen to their message. That was until the sirens overpowered us all, signalling the horrific onslaught of the massacre. Crisis, conflict, chaos, catastrophe. We've had more than enough to test us. The earthquakes of 2010, 2011, 2016, the Port Hills fires, the Wakefield fires, 185 people killed, several thousand injured by a magnitude 6.3 earthquake in 2011, the destruction of the main freight line and State Highway 1 for 2 years after the Kaikoura-Huranui earthquakes. It is the fragility of the fault line between crisis and resilience, which is the natural home of Whānau ora. The important differential, however, is that whilst Whānau may present in crisis, there is a mindset shift which focuses Whānau on future horizons, reinforcing they are not broken, they are brilliant, moving from jeopardy to enabling joy. Enter Whānau ora, where change is sustainable because Whānau determine it and Whānau action it. It is not a program, a service, a provider, a government department fixing families up, a place-based project, a one-size-fits-all methodology, an intervention logic, a funding formula devised by Treasury, prescribed for a lineal cost-benefit analysis. This is life as we know it. I think we reached an important turning point as a nation this last 10 days. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Speak good words or remain silent." It is a philosophy which speaks to kaupapa Māori, particularly manaakitanga, Pūtahitanga and Waipounamu. As we have stood alongside and shed tears with the Muslim communities, they have demonstrated that they are proudly independent, authentic and self-determining, while also reaching out to us. It is not so much we are they or they are us, but more particularly, we know of them and they know of us. We are not part of an assimilated oneness. We are uniquely distinctive in all of our nationalities, ethnicities, spiritualities and beliefs. How we respond to our circumstances reflects on the philosophical framework that we uphold. Additionally, as Ngāi Tahu has challenged us all, this moment in time is a precious opportunity in our country to focus on what it is that unites us rather than what divides us, to have courageous conversations. In all of this, a Whānau ora approach prevails, driven by aspirations, by a strengths focus and an outcomes methodology. Most of all, it is by, for and of Whānau, as architects of their ultimate future. We should see this circumstance as a much-needed opportunity for transformation wherever we sit. The common purpose is compelling. I want to take us back to the last time that government held a National Whānau Development Summit. Exactly 16 years ago, in March 2003, Whakapumo Whānau was hosted at Te Wānanga Raukawa in Otaki, a national summit followed by 11 regional hui. There were 4 significant themes that arose out of that summit that some of you will remember. Tangata whenua see themselves as collectives. Tangata whenua have a vision of Whānau as healthy, vibrant and self-sustaining social structures. Tangata whenua see the revitalisation of whakapapa as a means to progress positive outcomes for Māori. Tangata whenua view Whānau based around a kaupapa as an important element of their development. Whānau gathered at that summit had a vision for the future, which was positive, and they saw Whānau as the vehicle to achieve this. It was in that field of optimism that Whānau ora was born. 6 years later, in 2009, that positive vehicle that Whānau were seeking came along through the report of the task force on what was then called Whānau-centred initiatives. The wero was laid firmly then, as it is today, at the role of the public service. The task force recommends that all government agencies with responsibilities to any aspect of Whānau wellbeing commit to the Whānau ora principles and support the Whānau ora approach. That task force, consisting of Mason Jury as chair, the late Rob Cooper, Di Grinnell, Suzanne Snively and Nancy Tuani, determined that there were 5 key domains of Whānau impact that created Whānau ora. Whānau aspirations, principles, Whānau outcomes, a Whānau-centred approach and a Whānau ora trust. An independent trust should be constituted. The first Minister for Whānau ora was appointed 8th of April 2010, the Honourable Dame Tariana Turia. There is an authentic evidence whakapapa. The aspiration has been premised on a balance between social gains such as health, education and social inclusion, economic gains such as expanding the asset base, cultural gains including participation in Te Ao Māori and collective gains. It is proudly Indigenous, mana motuhake, collective in its scope, intergenerational in its impact. It is strengthened by reciprocal commitments between and across generations and between the ambitions of an individual and the shared hopes of the whānau. As Jeff said in the last session on waka ore ore, mobilise, we mustn't forget our history. At that time in 2011, the headlines from government were relentlessly positive. Whānau must be architects of their own future, the Ministry of Health. Whānau ora, transforming our future. Whānau ora must be shaped by Te Ao Māori. It is the cultural distinctiveness of Whānau, the traditions, the heritage, the cultural norms that distinguishes Whānau ora from the previous approach of development or Whānau-centred initiatives. It is a philosophy that places Whānau right at the core. Into Waipounamu, this is what prompted the iwi to stand and to be firm that the Whānau ora approach is not about replicating services and programs. They didn't want the status quo. More of the same would not suffice. They believed that Whānau themselves have the courage and inspiration to transform. Whānau see opportunities, they have ideas. Whānau well-being creates the capacity to aspire. They were willing to suspend control, to let Whānau decide for themselves, to be about co-decision, not co-design. I want to mihi to the 9 iwi, all settled. Ngāi tahu, Ngāti apa ki te rātō, Ngāti tama, Ngāti kuia, Ngāti koata, Te Atiawa, Ngāti tō rangatira, Rangatani ki Wairau, and Ngāti Rārua, for their diligence and their courage in upholding faith in Whānau ora, in challenging conventional grant holders, and placing faith in Whānau themselves. They knew that Whānau ora must have a Māori heart. It is about Whānau well-being, far more than the sum total of individual measures. It's about self-determination, ongoing intergenerational transfer by Whānau, for Whānau, about Whānau. Now, I'm sure you can all see that perfectly. 170 initiatives across 8 waves, from Murihuku to Motueka, from Warikauri to Kawatiri. So just to talk about a few, and we're privileged to have here in the room, Ruth, kānohi ki te kānohi. When you invest directly in Whānau, they never let you down. Whānau are able to use their experiences to create an authentic social connection which strengthens Whānau to strengthen themselves. It is about creating opportunities which will make a difference because it's for their future and their future after them. It's about realising cultural aspirations in their everyday life. Janice Lee from Koha Kaian in Invercargill. The concept of enabling good lives, nothing about us without us, resonates so well with Whānau ora because it is about that notion of self-determination given heart. What we see through placing investment in families themselves rather than in Lambton Quay or Showplace in Christchurch is that when you give voice to those who are often unheard or marginalised, it stimulates critical reflection on our greater system. It counters the trend towards individualisation and social isolation. Our biggest issue is loneliness. Instead, it builds social capital and the capability to create inclusive communities. This is Omakapa, Lake Rotueti, the top of the south. Omakapa is a brilliant example of sustainability evidenced through a holistic approach. Their long-term dream was to create a kura. In order to do that, they needed to create the mokopuna who were ready to go to kura. So they started off with an initiative, well, literally, and they had an initiative called Pa Kids, which was bringing children home to the marae. Then they developed a Maurako Taiaha initiative for the rangatahi, featured here. Then the aunties wanted to get into it, so they created an income stream called Manaki Condiments, and finally they created a kura viability plan, which the Ministry of Education successfully agreed to, and this year they opened the first kura kaupapa Māori in Blenheim. So what we see is that aspiration is about a way of overcoming any barriers. It shifts the paradigm from service and being done to self-determination. It is about being deeply rooted in a communitarian approach, which is all around mutual determination. Hikoi Waiwai, Irina this morning talked about that intrinsic link to Whenua and to Whānau. Rohini Coakley over on the west coast, her family decided to create their own well-being by creating Hikoi Waiwai, which then turned into an enterprise called West Coast Guided Tours. Bros for Change, Jay Puki, after having experience within the criminal justice sector, decided he wanted to be part of a new generation, a new revolution for rangatahi. This is a significant return on investment. What we see is that potential economic benefits outweigh the economic costs by more than 7 to 1. So the whole connection is, as Nancy said this afternoon, we want the conversation, we want the collaboration. We need to have brave conversations for our whānau. We have 54 navigators, 170 whānau entities in Te Waipounamu. Te Pūnanga Haumaru particularly focuses on family violence, suicide prevention, poverty, homelessness. Capability development is supporting whānau to be those agents of change we need them to be. But the burdens of whānau today must not obscure the vision for tomorrow. While we are fully supportive of our navigators, supporting our individuals, we shouldn't just have navigators in name only. We need to be reframing whānau from being positioned as other, instead to being core as agents of change. And so when this report came out that the Minister launched this year, it's very important to take notice of what is said in there around a lack of trust and innovation, around systemic racism. Summing up, what we've witnessed as a nation over these last 10 days is another, feels like years, is another perspective on a state of emergency. Not a natural disaster this time, but a human-designed one. Islamophobia, xenophobia, racism, hate crime. The times are ripe for a conversation that's long been overdue since the faces of racism were articulated 30 years ago in Pūtahitanga. We do need to listen and read this report really actively. It's an amazing prescription of what we can do better for our nation, about how we can agree for all our departments to be able to provide commitment for whānau to do for themselves. Because ultimately, this is about whānau creating positive change for themselves. The terminology is important. Development can be tainted by a sense of being developed for, being shaped by another, being converted or changed. We have had an approach called whānau ora, which is accountable, which is transparent, where the value and efficacy of layers of reporting have been questioned, but which our trailblazers in the room, Rangi, Meripika, Debbie, John Tamahere, all of us together, Dr. Kiki, our approaches are culturally grounded, whānau-centred, strengths-based. This is what's so important about whānau ora: committed and passionate workforce, robust relationships. It is about placing faith in our families. We can do our own haka for hope, our march for love, our call for prayer, and our vigil. This is, like we say on the T-shirt, this is Minister Henari's words last year. Wow, whānau ora works. We are agile, we are ready. Let's talk. Kia ora.